Hi there. Today's video is something very important to me, and I think you'll see why when I go over it. So, this video is my response to an argument I had on Twitter. I was sort of out of line, though. I advised a member of the system to check with their alters before trying to integrate. I still stand by this. When I was shamed by several accounts, I apologized. I didn't want to be stuck in a toxic exchange that so many people on Twitter seem to enjoy. I might have been out of line, because the system was polyfragmented. I'm not sure that saying separate is the best idea in this case. However, in such cases, I think that all parties seeking integration must fully agree to it. What this video is really about, though, is viewing alters as separate selves. I thought this was a pretty standard understanding, but some systems apparently don't like to view alters as selves. Am I an outlier? I don't think so, but let me know what you think. I'm excited to hear from you. Let's start with the DSM-5, the psychologist's tool for diagnosing patients. It states diagnosis can be made when there is an existence of two or more identities, and the distinct identities are accompanied by changes in behavior, memory, and thinking. Let's start with the first part. There must be an identity. Identity is essential to self. Let's say in the case of gender fluid people, which I am, and all of my alters have their own gender identities. To dismiss them is to dismiss a separate sexual being, and that, quite frankly, is evil. So, let's get to the second part. Identities are accompanied by changes in behavior, memory, and thinking. Sounds like pretty basic criteria for self to me. Thinking separately is what separate people do. And this is what happens in the case of dissociative identity disorder. So, let's start with a simple enough word, we. An individual in the system typically uses we to refer to the whole system. It shows respect to the whole system, and at the same time indicates that the whole is composed of individuals who can choose and act separately from the host. That is a lot to be responsible for. Using we means you are accepting system accountability. For it to be we, the alters must be their own selves. I cannot emphasize it enough. We. If you don't agree with me, then why are you using we? Why do other systems use we? And if you don't use we, maybe you should. Imagine being told that you are nothing but a personality, costume for only real people to wear depending on the situation, and being treated as such. It's true that alters switch or front depending on the situation, but this front is partly a decision by the alter, not something that spontaneously happens by a strangely helpful subconscious. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about being host and switching and being co-conscious. All these concepts seem to suggest there's more than one being in a system. Let me explain. Just because you may be the most frequent host does not make you the only real self in the system. This should be obvious. All alters change consciousness from host to co-conscious to unconscious. Switching between these states is called switching. Observing the act of switching is observing the activity of a separate being. If you still believe you are only self, who are you switching with? And in periods of amnesia, which is essential to diagnosing DID, who's in charge during that period? Who keeps you from crashing your car? And if you find yourself somewhere you don't have a memory of getting to, who led you there? Who led the system there? Okay, let's talk a little bit about intelligence. To have your intelligence is essential to being a self. If you have intelligence, you have a self. I'm going to give a short list of things that suggest intelligence that is very frequently seen in the system. Alters remember names of acquaintances you've forgotten. They have their own memories. They pick out memories for you in the situation. They sing songs in the mind. They give advice. They know where certain things are that you've lost. They dislike some people outside of the system, and they like other people. They can make you completely forget what you were literally just thinking about. They can drive. They can play poker. They can draw. They can play sports, and almost completely without you if you're careful enough to notice. I remember when I was in a mental hospital, they had daily recreation time. I played basketball. When I zoned out, I was amazing. I made every basket. But when I paid attention, something was messing with me. My alter was messing with me. He wanted to be the athlete, not me. And there was no way I could stop him from messing up my shot. Let's talk littles. Littles are alters who are children. I personally take time to play with my littles as well as time to draw. I know certain YouTubers also play with their littles. And you want to say they don't exist? Well, that makes playtime pointless. You know, I feel bad for your littles. All of this as a response to being shamed on Twitter. I hope that I've properly defended myself. And I hope that I've defended many people's views that there are separate selves that make a system. The person on Twitter said I should not consider the alters as separate selves. He said it causes worse dissociation. He went on to say that alters only existed as part of the system. He compared them to puzzle pieces. Okay, I have a serious problem with that. Here is the deal. The alters do help the system. They do have roles. Let's take me as an example. Take anyone as an example. I am a much more complex and whole person than being defined by a role. I have hobbies. I have likes and dislikes. I like certain movies. I have friends. I have favorite books. I have hopes and dreams. I have fears. I like certain foods, etc., etc., etc. Here is my simple thesis. The alters in our systems are real. They have their own dignity. They have their own intelligence. They have their own personality, their own morals. They have their own morals, their own sexuality. Okay, I want to stop here. This is serious. Treating someone as unreal has obvious ramifications for how that person is treated sexually. Yeah, that's right. When you are ignoring someone's sexuality who is involved sexually with you, you can get pretty dangerously close to assault. Consider this very carefully. When you engage sexually, you must ask your alter's permission. You must. This is the problem with not viewing alters as separate selves. So, fuck the single self to system view. I cannot think of anything more abusive than telling someone I don't exist and then treating me like that for my entire life. Like I said, once again I'll say it, alters are separate selves. If you don't believe this, you will end up abusing your alters. You will abuse the members of your system. Remember, we is real. Thinking that alters are just something to be jettisoned, to be gotten rid of, is all playing into the stigma that we are insane. On Twitter, I was told that viewing alters as separate selves was unhealthy. I hope that this video was good enough to get rid of that seriously warped perspective. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Am I an outlier in these beliefs? Do you have your own insights on the subjects? I would love to hear from you. And to conclude, what do your alters think? Thank you, and please subscribe.